But it is not a machine that fixes itself. It is not a tree that grows without water. And right now, in this difficult year 2002, this is an extraordinarily testing moment for it, and for several reasons. The main one being fundamentalism. Theirs, but also ours. Fundamentalism is to intelligent faith what polio is to the body. Islam is hideously debased by it. Christianity is disfigured and cretinized by it. The ranting mullahs of the Middle East have about as much in common with the Prophet and with the great past scholars and theologians of Islam as Pat Robertson has with St. Augustine and Thomas Aquinas. Christians built St. Paul's Cathedral in London and Hagia Sophia in Istanbul. They commissioned the frescoes of Assisi. They wrote the Divine Comedy. They wrote the sacred verses of John Donne. Muslims built the Blue Mosque of Istanbul and the Great Mosque of Cordoba. They created in Al-Andalus, their name for Moorish Spain, one of the supreme cultures in world history, supreme not least in its tolerance for other faiths and creeds, for the Christian, for the Jewish. Muslims created a magnificent legacy of poetry and thought. They rescued the corpus of Greek philosophy from destruction. Ultimately, they made the European Renaissance possible. Yeah, but the Germans produced Meister Eckhart and Dürer and Luther and Heine and Beethoven and Goethe and Caspar David Friedrich and others too numerous to mention before Frau Alois Hitler of Braunau produced her little boy, the ultimate surprise rabbit in the German hat. Today, Islam's fundamentalist descendants who pretend to represent the Prophet can invent nothing, they can preserve nothing, they can create nothing. It seems that their sum of cultural achievement is to intone Allah is great while field stripping their AK-47s. And it's not that different on our side. Offhand, I can't think of one worthwhile contribution to American culture that has been made by American fundamentalists. Not a painting, not a poem, not a novel, a play. And despite all the churches that encumber our highway strips like freshly unpacked shiny toys dedicated to the cult of baby Jesus, the marketing whiz, not a building either. Only bland cliches, only suspicion, anti-scientific ignorance, and bigotry masquerading as faith. In terms of culture, fundamentalism is a pond of repetition where closed minds wallow. But isn't that the secret of its success in Islam, as here? It grows because it is simple, and it appeals to the stupid who always vastly outnumber the intelligent. It appeals to the powerless because it promises revenge for the raw deal. The elitist will be humbled, the agnostic will be damned, and heaven will become the sole property of the simplifiers. In the fundamentalist universe, all culture must be instrumental or must cease to be. When the Taliban destroyed the giant Buddhas, they were exactly true to the spirit of the American Puritans, whose fathers destroyed the corpus of all English medieval art. What is to me an aesthetically precious sculpture is to Hamid, who lives down the street, a blasphemous doll fit only for burning. The Quran my Arab friend reveres and consults is to my American neighbor, who hasn't read it, of course, and doesn't need to, of course, merely an incitation to the mass murder of other Americans. The true fundamentalist faith transcends probability, reason, even history. But that is why people long to believe in it and why the World Trade Center no longer exists. How do people come to believe this stuff? If we want to know how they do and why they do, there is only one place to find out, one place that will give us some clue, some understanding of our present terrors, misapprehensions, and misunderstandings. It's the library, stupid. And may there be a special execration upon those who have the hubris to change it from a repository of knowledge into a kind of spying platform. For if all this results in a net decrease of our liberties at the hands of a too intrusive state, then those poor souls who died on September 11 will indeed have died in vain. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Robert Hughes, for a speech that was, well, pretty amazing. But what I've come to expect after reading and listening to and watching on videos, how do you really feel?
Pessimistic but not entirely.
Pessimistic but not entirely was his answer from behind me. So we'll be thinking about your remarks for some time to come. I know I will. We have captured today's program, by the way, for later streaming out across the web for those of you and our colleagues who weren't able to be with us today. It was a great pleasure to have you with us, Mr. Hughes. Thank you very much. We began this opening general session by celebrating America, and we're going to end it on the same theme. We've, in fact, been talking about it all afternoon. As you entered the auditorium, you may have noticed a roped-off area at the back of the hall. I believe it's the one with the green and red around it, perhaps. The one I thought was maybe a place for a go-go dancer, but it was, in fact, an enclosure that now holds a case displaying an original Declaration of Independence broadside, one of about 200 printed in Philadelphia on the night of July the 3rd, 1776. This historic copy, one of those remaining 25, belongs to the producer Norman Lear, who generously agreed to have it brought here for our opening session. I invite you to view the Declaration as you leave the hall. It's currently touring the United States for the next at least 3 years, beginning with stops at several presidential libraries. ALA is a partner with Mr. Lear in the Declaration of Independence road trip, as it's known. The document will be on display, so you know it's been at the Carter Library. It was our good fortune to have the document here in town to make it more readily available, and we thank the Carter Library for arranging this, as well as Mr. Lear. It'll be on display here in Atlanta through July the 5th. I urge you, if you'd like to take a look,